Have you ever found yourself trying, well, everything, to shake off a heavy feeling? Maybe it's fear, maybe you just feel stuck or lost, but nothing seems to genuinely shift things.
Yeah, like you're hitting a wall.
Exactly. And what if the path you've been on your whole life, even a really deeply spiritual one, maybe hasn't quite addressed those core anxieties? And what if a completely different approach, one you maybe stumbled upon almost by accident, could lead to a profound personal transformation?
That sense of the familiar tools just not being enough anymore, it's really relatable. It can happen even within, really strict or well-defined systems.
Yeah.
That search for something that actually helped you move through fear is, well, it's a powerful driver.
Absolutely. And that's precisely what we're diving into today on the Video Review Show.
This is 190 Vision Revisited, where reflection sparks transformation.
We've got a really fascinating source to explore. It's a video you shared with us from 190 Vision titled A Journey with 190 Vision. It tells a pretty compelling story of one person's transformation.
Right. The video features a conversation, basically, between two people. Laura, who's sharing her really personal journey, and her husband, who's known as Coach. He pops in to provide context and ask some clarifying questions along the way.
Okay.
So it's essentially Laura recounting her path, starting from a place of significant fear and a very specific belief system to where she is now.
Got it. So our mission here in reviewing this video is to really unpack Laura's story. We want to pull out the key insights she shares, look closely at the specific examples she gives that highlight her transformation, and understand what she and Coach emphasize about the core approach, the philosophy, really, of 190 Vision itself, how they aim to empower people.
Yeah, it's about understanding the whole trajectory of her change.
Yeah.
And the how behind it, as presented through her own experience in the video.
Okay, so let's start by setting the scene a bit. Laura describes her background as being raised very strict Catholic, so strict, actually, that she even seriously considered becoming a nun at one point. That kind of gives you a sense of the deep roots of her initial beliefs.
And stemming directly from that upbringing, she talks about some really deep-seated fears she carried. Yeah. Specifically, she mentions a strong fear of going to hell after she died.
Wow.
And also a fear of becoming possessed, like she'd seen it portrayed in Hollywood movies.
And she was really clear about how these fears got instilled, wasn't she? She felt she was taught that people were basically sinners.
Yeah.
She mentioned listening to priests growing up who, she says, made it seem like almost everything she did was a sin. Even just an unkind thought could mean time in purgatory, leading her to really internalize this belief that she was like a horrible person.
And she makes a direct link between those pervasive fears and her desire to become a nun. For her, it wasn't just about devotion, it was also kind of a strategy.
A strategy? How so?
Well, she sought that controlled environment, the convent, to dedicate herself to constant prayer and repentance, essentially trying to serve her time in purgatory before death.
Oh, right.
In the hopes of possibly reaching heaven and escaping hell. It was driven quite significantly by the need to manage these, overwhelming anxieties.
Wow, that really puts her desire into perspective. And tied into this was a very specific fear of other people, too. She felt she was taught that people who didn't care about their souls, which she took to mean non-Catholics, were probably surrounded by demons.
Right, and that those demons could potentially transfer to her.
Exactly, leading to possession. And she really emphasized that this was something she was taught, not just some idea she came up with.
Yeah, it highlights just how deeply these beliefs shaped her whole view of the world and created these barriers, even in just simple interactions with people outside her faith.
So, okay, this is the backdrop. A life really structured around these strict beliefs and some profound fear. Then, something unexpected happens. Laura describes how a friend, her best friend at the time, introduced her to some new concepts.
And the friend started really gently, didn't she? Just asking if she'd be open to learning something different that might help her life.
Yeah, super low-key.
And the very first concept she learned was about elementals. As they're described in the video, they seem to be presented as basic energetic forces or building blocks.
Okay.
And the initial simple idea was just that we could control them.
From there, her friend took her to what Laura calls a church. And she was given this purple pamphlet. It was filled with decrees.
Right. And this is where she first saw pictures of these other figures. She asked who they were. And her friend identified them as ascended masters, just pointing them out, like so-and-so and this one.
And the instruction was pretty simple at first, wasn't it?
Yeah, basically, say these and you'll see changes in your life.
Yeah.
So she started saying them. But initially, she notes, she treated them just like regular prayers.
Right.
Just reciting the words.
Okay.
And it's important, she clarifies this, that her friend's role was really just this initial intro. Pretty much everything she learned after that point, she says, came from her husband, coach, or through her own seeking.
Gotcha. So she's just saying these decrees, like prayers. What were her first impressions? You'd think maybe resistance, but she said she was surprisingly open.
Yeah, interestingly, she found a way to relate the ascended masters to Catholic saints. Her thinking was, well, they mastered different things in their lives, similar to saints.
Okay, finding a parallel.
The one area she initially struggled with, though, was accepting Jesus as an ascended master. Her belief was so strong that he was solely the Son of God.
Right.
Placing him in that same category was tough for her. But she does mention she remained open to the idea itself, which is key.
Okay. And she emphasizes that in the beginning, her practice was really just saying the words of the decrees. But then she started noticing actual, tangible, positive changes. Things in her life started to work out.
And the most striking example she gives, the really specific one, is about her finances. She said she faced constant financial challenges. But she noticed that even when faced with something big, like rent being due and not having the money, after saying the decrees, money would somehow just appear.
Really? Like how?
She gives a clear example. Rent was due, she was short, but then unexpectedly, she'd get an extra babysitting job and bam, I'd have the money.
Wow.
For her, this wasn't just coincidence. It was the first major sign that something was shifting, that things were starting to work out. That real-world result seems like it was a critical piece of validation for her.
You bet. That kind of concrete experience, even from just reciting words, must have opened the door a bit further.
Definitely seems like it.
So, seeing these results, even small ones at first, led her to the next stage, working more closely with Coach. She describes being in the car with him and hearing him say the decrees, but it sounded totally different.
Right, there was an energy to it, a rhythm, not just reciting.
And listening to him say them like that actually had a physical effect on her. She got headaches.
Yeah, and Coach's explanation was that she wasn't yet able to handle that frequency. Frequency here seems to mean like an energetic or vibrational level tied to how the decrees were being spoken or directed.
That's a fascinating physical reaction. But what's really interesting is how she responded, right? Despite the headaches, feeling outside her comfort zone. She said something about it felt good. She actually wanted him to keep them playing. She told him not to turn them off.
This shows a real pull, doesn't it? An intuitive sense that this was somehow beneficial, pushing her through that initial discomfort.
It created this internal conflict, though, which she talks about. She prayed, she went to church, specifically asking for a clear sign if this new path was wrong for her.
Like, show me if I shouldn't be doing this.
Exactly. But she felt she just kept being exposed to the decrees and the teachings, and because nothing explicitly negative happened, no big stop sign appeared. She concluded, well, this must be right. She even drew a parallel to her past experiences praying to Catholic saints like St. Anthony and St. Jude, saying she always got quick responses from them. She was kind of using that familiar pattern of validation through experience.
That connection back to her previous faith framework seems like it was really crucial in helping her process these new experiences and solidify her desire to learn more.
And learn more she did. She wanted to say the decrees like Coach did. With that different energy, she asked for a recording and he gave her a cassette tape.
Wow, the cassette tape.
Right, blast from the past. And she describes listening to that tape over and over and over, just immersing herself in the sound and the feeling of the decrees.
And this dedicated practice led to her feeling really good. Yeah. She specifically highlights the protection decrees.
Yeah, she shares a really powerful example of using them. She talks about driving in areas of Chicago and its suburbs that she used to be really afraid of because of crime. And she would play the protection decrees loudly in the car and actually visualize Archangel Michael circling her vehicle.
That's such a vivid, concrete application of it, taking something spiritual and using it very intentionally for a real-world fear.
Totally. So she's feeling better, seeing results, her practice is deepening. But she was still trying to reconcile all this with her deeply ingrained belief that the Catholic Church was the only true way.
Right. She actively tried to fit the Ascended Masters into her existing Catholic framework.
How did she do that?
Well, she spent time finding correlations. She connected El Moria with Abraham.
Okay.
Saint Germain with Saint Joseph, Jesus' father. Mother Mary was, well, Mother Mary, Beloved Kuthomi, she related to Francis of Assisi.
So she was mapping them onto figures she already knew and accepted?
Exactly. And as she encountered other masters through the teachings, she kept doing this. Mother Kuan Yin was explained to her, and she related her to the Mother Mary of the Catholic Church. Lord Shiva was seen as a protector, kind of like Archangel Michael in her view. Coach actually notes in the video that for a long time, she was essentially trying to force all these new figures into her existing religious structure.
And she agreed with that.
Oh yeah, she readily agrees. She said that in her mind, initially, they all came from the Catholic Church. It was just her way of making sense of the new within the only context she really knew.
That makes sense. Okay, now let's jump forward several years. Laura Chiva describes a really significant turning point, something that shifted things dramatically. She was feeling frustrated because Coach had stopped going to church with her and their youngest children. It really bothered her on Sundays that he wasn't there as a family unit.
Right. And then came this, totally unexpected moment. She got home from church one Sunday, and Coach came up to her and relayed a message. Yeah, as he described it in the video, it was his ghetto version, or maybe pseudo version, summary of a conversation or experience he'd just had.
Okay. And what was the message?
The message, as Coach relayed it, reportedly came directly from Mother Mary. And it was pretty blunt. She apparently said to leave me alone about his church attendance.
Wow.
Stating that he was beyond that point and that if he should be going, they will let me know.
Whoa. How did Laura react to that?
She was, as you'd expect, completely shocked. She describes being floored. Her immediate thoughts went straight to her role as a mother, raising their kids Catholic, the importance she placed on the whole family doing church and sacraments together.
Yeah, how would that work?
Exactly. She questioned how she'd manage that with their younger kids if he wasn't actively involved in the same way anymore.
But she eventually accepted it.
She did. Despite that initial jolt, she said her acceptance came from that deep-seated belief. Mother Mary knows better than I do. And she identifies this specific moment, triggered by Coach's experience, as the point when things really started to change for her. It spurred her to actually start learning more about the teachings herself because of what Coach was clearly experiencing and learning.
So his experience kind of pushed her further.
It seems like it. This reciprocal learning and validation was apparently really crucial for them, eventually establishing the whole 190 Vision community.
That's a powerful story, an unexpected message really shifting her direction and commitment.
Definitely.
So since that turning point, what kind of changes does Laura report?
Widespread positive changes, really. She says she feels a whole lot better physically, mentally, emotionally.
That's huge. And what about the fears she started with?
She specifically highlights that she has been able to let go of the fears that haunted her for so long, referring right back to those deep anxieties from her youth.
That's incredible.
And she emphasizes her understanding of life isn't static now. It's changed profoundly. And crucially, it keeps changing as I learn more. It's presented as this ongoing process of growth and evolution.
And her overall experience now.
She describes it as simply more positive, more loving.
And she connects this back to wanting to help people, right?
Yeah, she contrasts her teenage idea of helping just by smiling at people with her current ability to offer practical tools and knowledge that she gained from her own experience, empowering others to actually help themselves.
Which leads right into what they present as a core principle of the 190 Vision approach, doesn't it?
Exactly. Empowering individuals to help themselves.
They use that classic give a man a fish, teach a man to fish analogy to explain it.
Right. So in the beginning, when someone is new to the teachings and maybe facing challenges, they might need immediate support. Coach and Laura provide that initial support. They give them the fish, basically.
Okay.
Because the individual doesn't yet have the tool, like the hook or bait, to fish for themselves yet.
So you get the support while you're actively learning the techniques and practices to help yourself. Like Coach says, you got to eat while you're learning how to find food. Makes sense.
Yeah. And the goal is that once people gain that knowledge and experience, they can consistently apply to help themselves. And then, having learned, they can start teaching others how to fish too. It's presented as this model of self-sufficiency first, and then community empowerment.
And Laura's own journey is kind of a perfect example of this progression, isn't it? She started out thinking Coach's abilities, like seeing spirits or relaying messages, were something inherently special, like only saints could do that kind of thing.
But through her own dedicated practice, applying the teachings, she began to have direct experiences herself.
Like what?
She describes being able to communicate and relay messages from loved ones who had passed, even getting information Coach didn't know, and feeling the palpable presence of ascended masters and angels while saying decrees with him. She says this personal experience wasn't just interesting, it was life-changing. It solidified everything for her. It wasn't about watching someone else's special ability anymore. It was about gaining that internal knowing part through her own direct experience.
That internal validation must be incredibly powerful. And she also mentioned the physical transformation again.
Yeah, she circled back to that, going from being frequently always sick with headaches and general body malfunctions, as she put it, to those issues becoming almost non-existent now.
So given her whole journey, Coach asks her for advice for someone watching the video who feels lost or struggling or maybe thinks there's only one way to do things like she used to. And her response is really straightforward, isn't it?
Super clear. Just be open and try it.
Simple but profound.
And they highlight this as a central tenet repeated by the Ascended Masters in the training shared through 190 Vision. Try it, implement it. They really emphasize that the only way to truly know what's real and what works for you specifically is by experiencing it.
So base your understanding on your own experience, your own experiments.
Exactly. They contrast this active approach with just, say, listening to motivational speakers all day but never actually doing anything. The focus at 190 Vision, they say, is firmly on doing, applying the principles and techniques, not just passively listening.
And they mention support being available.
Yeah, they reassure people that support is there. They mention the Ascended Masters, your own spirit team, whether you're aware of having one or not yet, and the 190 Vision community itself are all there to help guide you until you feel fully capable of doing it yourself.
Laura's realistic too, though. She acknowledges it won't always be easy.
Right. Her own journey wasn't perfectly smooth, and she admits there are still moments where her old, deeply ingrained belief systems can get shaken up. But she maintains that staying open to the experience, even through those challenges, is absolutely key.
Okay, so finally, they circle back to that initial point about integrating different beliefs. Specifically, how does Laura now view her Catholic faith alongside everything she's learned through 190 Vision?
She explains her current, more expansive understanding. She sees the Catholic Church as representing one aspect of Jesus' teachings, which was developed and interpreted by people over time.
Okay.
What she learns through the teachings elsewhere, like from the Ascended Masters, she doesn't see as contradictory anymore. She sees it as another aspect, or maybe another part that goes with it.
So not replacing, but adding to.
Kind of.
Yeah.
She believes that fundamentally it all works together. Because in her current understanding, the divine intent is for us all to work together, love one another, help one another.
That's a big shift from seeing her church as the best and others as bad.
Exactly. It's shifted to viewing them all as potentially different aspects of the teachings, all part of a larger truth.
And she mentioned seeing similarities across faiths now.
Yeah, she notes that when you start paying attention, you begin to see very common things and a lot of similarities across different traditions. She mentions Hinduism, Judaism, Buddhism, Islamic faith, even Zoroastrianism as examples she's noticed.
So Laura's story, as shared in this 190 Vision video, really offers a powerful look at how personal experience combined with a willingness to just be open can lead someone from a place of really deep, fear-driven adherence to just one path, to a much more expansive, positive, and empowered state that actually integrates different understandings.
It's definitely a thought-provoking exploration of belief, fear, and that search for practical tools for personal transformation.
So reflecting on Laura's journey from being bound by fear to finding empowerment through direct experience and integrating these different perspectives, here's a question for you to maybe mull over. Where in your own life might being open and trying it, allowing your own personal experience to be your main guide, lead you to a deeper understanding or maybe even a significant positive transformation?
And if Laura's story or the 190 Vision approach she talked about has piqued your interest and you want to maybe learn more about the resources they offer, the video mentions several ways you can connect.
Right. You can visit their website, which is 190vision.com. They specifically pointed out looking for the Help Me tab there.
You can also join the conversation and connect with other people by looking for the 190 Vision Facebook group.
For more videos like the one we discussed, you can check out the 190 Vision YouTube channel.
They're also on Instagram. Just search for the 190 Vision account.
And they mentioned having a channel available on Amazon Fire TV as well.
Finally, if you feel called to support the mission of 190 Vision, they mentioned there is a donate button located at the bottom of each page on their website. oneintivision.com.
It really is a journey that emphasizes learning to empower yourself, one step and one experience at a time.
A compelling invitation to explore, for sure.